Hello and welcome to our 7th session, and in this session we are going to start discussing about camera. But before that, see, in our previous session what we did was, in our studio you placed my image shot against a green screen. So if I continue from our previous session, so in the previous session we had added, which we called as reader. This is a media image source component, and using this, so if I press the play button, you can see my image is placed over here. I will stop the playback. Instead of placing my video here, we are going to place a real 3D character sitting over here. Come over here, and I have this my studio level already open. I will come to file and I will choose save current level as, and in content my levels I am going to call this as my studio with characters. Create a new level and I am going to save it. Every time I save a level, I will go to build and I will click on this build all level, and once the build is complete I will close it. And now in the content drawer, if you come into my level, you can see that my studio with characters is our level file, and you have a new file created here with the build data. I will right click, turn, and I will press W, zoom in, press E and move up, and I want now on this chair to place a character. So now I will select this reader and I will remove it. Clicking on this wheel, I will click collapse all. I will open it. So now I have removed it and I have only two empty chairs. Actually, in Unreal Engine, to create this character, we have a tool called MetaHuman, but I will come to MetaHuman later. To quickly get a character here, I am going to use another free tool from Adobe, which is called as Mixamo. Coming into browser, in the search window just type Mixamo, Mixamo, and press enter. The very first link is this mixamo.com link. So click on this link, and here as soon as you come into this site, you have two options. If you already have an Adobe account, you can log in, or you can sign up for free. Click on sign up for free and you can enter your email address here. It is saying this email address already exists, so I can click on sign in here. So here you can just add your email ID, go to your email account, and there will be a verification mail sent to you. Click on the link and verify your account and it will be done. I already have created that, so I will just use my password, log in into my account. Now it is asking for a mobile number, so right now I will click not now. You have logged into your Mixamo account. This is a tool by Adobe for rigging the characters. Here you have two menus on the top. One is characters, so you can choose some of the ready-made characters present over here. See, you have so many characters here. You can there are three sections here, and out of this, say for example, see, you can see I will select this Joe character. So I will click on this Joe character and you can see its preview over here. Once I have selected the character, I will come into animation and I want this character to be seated. There are many ready-made rigged animation already created to you. Now what you can do is, I will come here in search and type sitting. So I have some of the sitting animations here. So you have various sitting animation. So right now for my purpose, I am going to choose this sitting idle animation. So when I click on sitting idle animation, I have this character sitting here and I have some settings here, and this arm, what you are saying, say for example I want this to be rested on the table, then I will increase the arm space to 100, and you can see that both the arms are now on the table. I will come here to download and I am going to click on the download button. Now Here I will choose this FBX binary format with skin, and the frame rate is set to 30 frames per second, and keyframe reduction I leave it none. I leave it everything at default and click on the download button. This animation will get downloaded to your machine. So I will just open this. This is named as sitting idle.fbx. I will right click and I am going to rename this as Joe underscore sitting, and then I am going to cut this and I am going to come into my, so I will organize, and here I will create a new folder called as characters, and inside this I am going to place this. I need two comp errors in my new studio. So the next comp error I need is a lady character. So for that, again I will come into Mixamo, come into character, remove off this sitting, and here again in this character, if I scroll down here and I select this Megan character, click on use this character. So now I have selected a second character called as Megan with the same pose. I will come into download, and with the same default setting I will click the download button. It is getting downloaded here. It's around 56 MB. I will again come to my download folder and I am going to rename this as Megan underscore sitting, and I will just cut it from here and put it into my folder wherein I have put one characters folder, and inside that I am going to place. I will come into Unreal Engine, and now in the content drawer I will come into the content and I am going to right click and I am going to create a new folder, and I am going to call this first folder as Joe. I will double click it here, and now I am going to come into add, and I am going to use this import to game Joe. This first link here, I will click on this and I will now come to the folder where I saved my character. So this Joe sitting.fbx file, I will click on open. So now it is going to ask me a few standards about this content. We are going to discuss all these things in detail later, but as of now I will just click on import. So many items imported over here. Can you see? You have Joe sitting animation, Joe sitting, then you have all the textures, everything added over here. So what are these things? We are going to discuss it in detail when we study about metahuman or character. So right now what I am going to do is, I am going to select this Joe sitting animation and I am just going to drag this and put it in my scene. So I will drag it and put it here. Now I will come into the top view, and in the top view, see, I will just zoom in, drag it here, and I am going to now press E to enable my rotate tool. I am going to rotate it by 90 degree, then press W. Using the move tool, I will move it and place it exactly over this chair here. See, I have placed it over the chair. I will come into the front view and I am going to move this a little up so that the hands are on the table. See, like this. I have just adjusted it so that the hands are placed on the table. Now I will come into perspective view and you can now see my character sitting here. So this is my character which I have placed it here. Now for the second character, again I will come into the content drawer, and in content I am going to now create a new folder and I am going to call this as Megan, and I will double click it, again come to add, and in import I am going to select Megan sitting.fbx and I will click on the import button, and once it is imported, again you can see all the textures and the skeleton, mesh, everything is added here. Now I am going to select here this Megan sitting animation. I will select it and drag it into my scene here. You can see here in the outliner it has been added here. I will come into the top view. I have enabled W key, that is the move key. I will move it here. Press E to enable rotation key, and I am going to rotate it exactly by 90 degree. Then again press W, and I am going to just move it, and I will just adjust it here so that it is precisely placed here. Then from top view I will come into the front view, and you can see it is placed to the top. I will move it down, and when I am moving it, I will just zoom it a little and right click and pan it down, and I am going to select this, and I will, when I am moving it, I will see that the hands are resting exactly on the table like this. Now I will come here into the perspective view, and if you see here, I will click somewhere here to deselect everything. We have our two news readers present in our broadcast studio. So now I will go back to file and click on save all to save this. As a filmmaker, the main tool that we are going to use is the camera. So now to add the camera here, see basically here, see I have this, you are seeing this scene, and actually I have one physical camera added here. See, this is a model camera, this is not the real camera. Now here I want a real camera to be placed, and to place the camera, I can place the camera in my scene by three ways. The very first way is I can come to this plus icon here, and in this, in cinematic, I have Cine Camera Actor. So I can select this, drag it and put it into my scene. So immediately you can see my camera has been added, and once I have added my camera, you can see the preview of the camera over here. So what my camera is seeing can be seen here, and you can see the Cine Camera Actor added here. So now to organize it better, what I will do is I will come over here and choose collapse all. I will open this and I will click plus button here, and I am going to create a folder called as cameras. See, this is already added into this because I had selected it, it has got added into this, and I am going to now select this, press F2, and I am going to rename this as Cine Camera Center, because this is the camera we are going to use it at the center. So now just like other items, I can drag this camera. Say for example, I can come here to the top view, and in the top view also this preview you can see it. I can just move it here, okay, and right click and pan it here. So where is my camera? My main camera is here. So I can just drag it and bring it here. I will press E, take the rotation tool, and I will just rotate it by 180 degree because it was totally on the other side. So I have rotated by 180 degree, press W, and I am going to move it and place it exactly at the position where my actual camera is. So I can even come into the right view now. So now I will just move it and place it where my actual camera is. So I will come back here into the perspective view. I will zoom out. See, this is exactly placed at the same position where my actual camera is placed, where my model is placed. So I have placed it exactly there, or I can even place it correctly so that this is exactly centered. So this is one way we have added it. The other way of adding camera is, what we can do is, in the scene I am going to set my angle. So now I will deselect this camera, and once I deselect it, this view has gone. So now I will zoom in, and I will just middle mouse click and pan up, and I will left mouse click and press A to pan, rotate it like this, turn like this, and I am going to set a position wherein I am going to focus only on this actor. So, my focus is only on this person. So, I will bring a view like this, and once I am happy with this view, this is the view I want my camera to be added. So, now the second way of adding the camera is, so if I click on this 3 lines here, and if you come down here, you have one option, create camera here, and if I click on camera actor now you can see my camera is placed exactly at the same position where I had composed my viewport. So, I can compose the shot completely here and then just go here and create camera here and choose this option, and the camera will be exactly placed at that angle. And I will come here and I am going to press F2 and I am going to rename this as sign camera, and this is the left camera. If I just zoom out and see here, so you can see where my camera is sitting. So, I can also come into the top view and I will also come here in the outliner, drag it and put it into the camera. Now, you can see the camera is placed here. I will just drag it and put it exactly at the position where my model camera is. I will right click and pan it here. So, my camera should be here. See, this is the camera. Okay. So, now I will come here and again I will press E and I will rotate it so that this is exactly in the same angle. So, if it is snapping like this and if you are not able to rotate it perfectly, now this snapping is happening because here you can see in movement and in rotation and scale you have the snapping here. I will switch off this snapping, and if I off this, and now I can rotate it freely like this, or otherwise it snaps to 10 degree here. So, now I will also come into the front view and see that I will press W and I will move it to the same height as this camera here, and then now I will come into the perspective view. Okay, so now you can see actual camera is placed exactly at the same position as my left camera model. So, these are the 2 ways of adding the camera. And now the third way of doing it is, whenever we are doing the cinematic production in Unreal, we are going to use something called as a sequencer. So, if you have worked in Premiere, we start working by creating a new sequence, and in the sequence we start adding the clips. Similarly, even in After Effects, we create a composition and inside the composition we add the clip. So, similarly here in Unreal, whenever you want to do a cinematic production, you have to start with a sequence. To create this sequence, I will come into the content drawer, and in the content folder, I will right click again and I will create a folder, and I am going to call this as sequences. To create a new sequence, on the top bar here, you can see a clapboard icon here. So, if I click on this clapboard icon, you have 2 options, add level sequence with shots. So, I am going to choose the first option, add level sequence. So, as soon as I click on add level sequence, now immediately it will ask me where I have to save this sequence. So, now in content in sequences, I am going to give this the name as my first sequence, and I am going to click save. So, now as soon as I saved it, you have a sequence window open at the bottom with a timeline, and here inside the sequence you have one camera icon. I have to come to file and click save all to save this. So, it is saved now. I will click on this create new camera, and when I click on this, a new camera is now created. It is not only created, but I am also seeing its view now. So, I can just zoom out and I can just pan around, press W and move here, and I am seeing through the camera, and through the camera now I am adjusting my shot. So, I will just move up and I will press Q and come down like this. Okay. So, now I am seeing through the camera. This shot what you are seeing is through the camera, and this camera has been added, and now to come out of this camera view you have one eject button here. So, when I click on the eject button I come back into the scene. So, now coming into the scene you have your sequence added here, you have your camera added here. So, I will drag this camera and put it into the camera, press F2 and I am going to call this as sign camera underscore right. So, I have added 3 cameras here, one to the center, one to the left and one to the right. And similarly, to arrange these sequences, I will come here, right click and I am going to create a new folder and I am going to call this as sequences, and I will drag this my first sequence and put it into this sequences. And similarly, I will create one more folder called as characters, and inside the characters I will select my 2 characters and drag it and put it inside this, so that all my contents here are clearly maintained. Come into my camera, I will select this sign camera right. So, you can see this has been used in a sequence. These 2 cameras we have not used it in any sequence. So, it is showing here I am using this in my first sequence. Now, with this camera selected, I will again come in the top view, and now I will just zoom out and right mouse click and pan it, and I will just move in here and I am going to drag it and place it at the position where I have the third camera. I will come into my right view and I will come here into wireframe. I will select this, press E and I will rotate it up like this. So, now when you are creating this rotation, see sometimes when you add multiple rotation it may get tilted. So, I will just rotate it like this. I will come into the top view and I will just rotate it like this, or what I can do is I can come into the transform rotation and reset everything, and from this position I will just turn it like this on the left view, top view, and then I will come here to the right view. So, what happens is, so when I am tilting it, see now this is in the global axis. So, it is going to, so I can switch here to local axis. So, if I click here I will come into the local axis, and in the local axis now along the y axis I can tilt it. So, what is this local axis and global axis? I will explain it. I will come into the top view, and in the top view right now what I will do is I will reset all the rotation. So, now when this is in the global axis, I will change this to global axis. See, my global x, y and z is top to bottom. These are the global axis. So, now when I am rotating it along the x axis, say for example, I will take this and rotate it along the x axis like this, and I am going to move it and rotate it like this. Now, after I rotate it like this, now the next thing is here, say for example, I will come into the move and I want to move the camera a little closer, means I can either move it along the y axis like this or x axis like this, because this is the global axis. However, the camera is facing this side. See, you can see here. For the camera, the forward backward movement, that is the x axis, is this one, not this one, because I have rotated it. So, now if I want to bring the camera forward, it will be very difficult for me to bring it forward using this global axis. So, I have to manually hold it here and drag it. So, if I come here and switch to local axis, now you can see here my x axis changed to the camera position. So, when I drag it along the x axis, see the camera moves forward and backward. So, if I want to bring the camera down, I can just come over here to the front view, and if I drag it down, it comes down like this. So, I can adjust this position based on my camera axis now. So, this is the basic difference between local axis and the world axis. So, whenever you are moving, whenever you have rotated, I will come into the top view, you have rotated some object, and if you want to move it along its axis or rotate it along its axis, then we are going to use this local axis. So, similarly now, say for example, I will come into the right view and I will slightly move it up, and if I want to tilt it down, I have to rotate this camera along the z axis of the camera, not the global axis. So, for that I will come into the rotate tool, and now if I rotate it along the y axis, you can see it is moving like this, and if I rotate it along the x axis, it tilts like this. See, okay, I will undo this, and if I rotate it along the z axis, it turns like this. So, it is moving along the local axis of the camera. So, basically there will be two axes. One is the global axis, which is represented by north, east, west and south direction. So, to explain you better, say for example, if you are moving from Bangalore to Mysore, basically the thing is, if you use a global axis, your car is actually moving downward. Okay, but for your to navigate Bangalore to Mysore, we use a local axis. The direction in which the car is moving is actually the forward movement. In global, moving north is the forward movement, but in local, in whichever direction your car is moving, that is considered as forward movement. So, when you turn right, when you are moving north, if you turn right, you are going to see the east direction. But in local axis, when the car is moving from Bangalore to Mysore, when you turn right, you are actually seeing to your west. Similarly, when you are moving in the global axis towards the north direction, and if you turn left, you are seeing towards your west. Whereas in the car, if you are moving from Bangalore to Mysore, and if you actually turn towards your left, you are actually seeing towards your east. So, this is how the global axis and the local axis is going to change. So, this is a brief explanation about what is global axis and what is local axis. So, with this setting done, so we have added all the three cameras here. I will come back to the perspective view. I have added three cameras, and you can see here this is the camera center, camera left and camera right. And if you want to see here the camera view, I can come into the perspective view, and you can see here if I click camera center, this is the camera center view, and you can see the object is out of focus. We are going to discuss and correct it later. If I click on the perspective and if I choose camera left, this is the left angle, and if I click on camera right, this is the right angle, and even here you can see the focus is out. So, now I will go back to file and click on save all to save this. So, this completes our day 2 hour 2 session, wherein we have added two characters, we have understood how to add cameras and how to place it, what is a global axis and what is a local axis and what is a sequencer. So, let us meet in our next session for day 2 hour 3 to discuss in detail about the camera.